massive, venomous centipedes are selling for ridiculous sums of money in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, China. Those kind of locations where this stuff can fetch a small fortune. And in Vietnam, where they originate, there's villagers just cashing in big. And so this week, we're gonna find out how these things fuel the exotic pet trade. And then we're gonna join a hunt to find out where they're sourced. I can feel it trying to pry open these tongs. It is one of the strongest insects I've ever felt. Oh, no. God damn it. Oh, that's freaky as... That's coming for me. And finally, we're gonna meet a centipede kingpin.
Mấy năm nay là kinh doanh này cũng ổn.
A man making millions, transforming centipedes into something people consider gold. And yeah, it turns out people actually eat these things, so we're gonna have to try some. Good morning, people. Today, we are on the search for giant centipedes on the corners of Saigon. I believe this is District 5. And there's birds. Maybe that's a good start. I feel like people feed bugs to birds. In Saigon's Chinatown, you'll find a pretty unique kind of side hustle. Motorbike vendors selling live feed for expensive pets. They've got grasshoppers, cockroaches, lizards, and the most valuable of all, the Asian giant centipede. I've got to admit, I never really quite understand these kind of like roadside takeaway joints. Who needs to get takeaway birds? Live birds. But you know what? I'm glad it exists because it's kind of fun as hell. They pull up from the countryside, balancing cages and bags on the back of their bikes and bringing with them whatever they've caught from the jungles and plantations outside the city. To see where the money's at, we're gonna start out by seeing how these centipedes are used here in Vietnamese culture. All right, I was about to give up on this whole idea of finding giant centipedes here on the side of the road, but that dude behind me is selling lizards to feed to birds. So yeah, I don't know, people here feed wood to their animals. We move vendor to vendor, scouting for centipedes. It's not long before I come across a lady who's caught 8 of them, fresh from the rubber plantations outside of Saigon. Oh wow, she just put a cricket in with these things. I guess they survive by eating these crickets. These things right away, it just gives me the creeps. They are just kind of wacky looking creatures, you know what I mean? All right, so I've bought out this lady's entire supply of giant centipedes. 8 centipedes, 40,000 a pop, it's like $2 a piece. And we're gonna look into why there's a giant market for these creepy ass creatures right here in Saigon. No haggling, and we head right around the corner to my friend G's shop. Here in Vietnam, centipedes serve one main purpose: feeding multi-$1,000 dragonfish. The last thing you want to do is harm them, but obviously, you still got to feed them these dangerous creatures, you know? It's good for them. These fish, arowana, aren't just expensive pets. In some circles, they're treated like gods, believed to bring good fortune, status, even wealth. They have an almost cult-like following. We're gonna put it in the cold icy tank. All right, so, oh bro, that's, oh, I can't handle. But it turns out feeding these guys isn't just as simple as tossing in live centipedes. These fish are worth more than some people's homes. You can't afford to make any mistakes in these cases. So the fangs must be removed. I guess it kind of makes sense to me. I mean, that fish behind me has a 58 next to it. That is 58 million VND. It is not a cheap creature. The process is meticulous. First, we submerge the centipedes in ice water. It's a quiet kind of execution, but it is necessary. If you're out there and you are an insect activist, let me know if this is the method of termination that you would be in favor of. Then, with forceps and scissors, we carefully remove the fangs from the head, making sure there's no chance they can harm the fish.
Có nhiều người ta còn cắt luôn cái hàng chân của nó nữa. Nhưng mà đối với những con cá rồng size lớn thì có thể không cắt cái chân này cũng được. Nó vẫn còn sống khi mà vô cái môi trường nước bình thường nó không có lạnh thì nó sẽ tự nó sống lại. Để lâu quá thì nó sẽ bị ngủm luôn. Sẽ có thể nó ruột ra, nó sẽ chích bình thường. Cái thứ hai là khi mà nó còn tỉnh thì cái chân này nó sẽ bấu vô cái tay mình, và lúc đó mình đau mình sẽ buông ra. Và cái con này nếu mà nó sống trong nhà thì rất là nguy hiểm.
Very good. It is kind of crazy. In this culture, feeding expensive venomous centipedes to the arowana isn't about the calories. It's about watching one predator consume another. Power meets power. And Cheese Channel and Hugo Jung's channel, the best arowana content in all of Vietnam. Check them out. These centipedes in Vietnam aren't just creepy crawlies, they're killers. They can grow up to 30 centimeters in length, with fangs sharp enough to puncture through skin, and venom that is used to take down animals 15 times their size. While they mostly eat other insects like crickets, given the chance they will take on bats, snakes, small birds, they latch on with dozens of legs and inject their venom and wait for their prey to crumple in paralysis. It is brutal, but it is efficient. Its venom attacks the nervous system, shutting down muscles, causing intense pain, and in some, well, rare cases, even humans have died from its bite. These creatures don't survive, they dominate. The centipede's venom, its strength, its ability to dominate, those qualities are believed to be transferred with each bite. The arowana doesn't just eat the centipede, it takes on its power, its aggression, its essence. It's like some weird version of Highlander, but in pet form. Very good. But this raw primal power makes it valuable. It's time to make some money and see where these insect vendors are getting their supply from. The hunter is about to become the hunted. Deep in the rubber tree plantations of Phuc, there are endless rows of rubber trees that stretch in every direction for hundreds of kilometers. And here, hunters like Nguyen, who we're meeting today, make a living during rainy season by harvesting centipedes day and night. Good morning, people. Today, we are up on the Cambodian border, a little bit north of Saigon, and we're here to catch Asian giant centipedes. Potentially deadly insects that I've ever had to deal with. Not really looking forward to this. Holy that is crazy. So like Nguyen is showing us his hand got bit about 2 days ago. And I mean, it is night and day. One hand is like completely swollen. Then his other hand is lean as hell. Armed with a rake, a pair of forceps, and a bunch of plastic bags tucked into his belt, he moves through the trees like a man on a mission. All right, so our guide Nguyen has like a mosquito coil attached to his belt hip. That is kind of genius if you ask me. Around here, the mosquitoes in these rubber tree jungles they can be intense. Every 10 or 15 meters or so, he stops at a pile of plastic. These are leftover sheets from the rubber tree harvest. The centipedes burrow under these piles, seeking shade and safety during the day, and they also feed on other insects trying to do the same. As soon as we move it out of the way, there's worms that scurry out of the way, there's insects that sort of go flying off, and that's clearly what the centipedes are after. The bugs make their home there, and then the bigger bug, he looks for him to eat. And then the human comes along and says, I'll eat that as well, at least in Asia. It sounds easy enough, so I ask Nguyen to hand me the forceps and let me have a go. This thing is hopefully not gonna crawl right up my arm, bite me in the neck or something like that. There it is. Oh, we've got it. I can feel the bite sort of vibrating up those forceps. It is crazy how much strength these guys have. That is a crazy, crazy creature. Oh, I'm gonna put him in this bag as soon as possible. Rubber tree jungles, essentially, are just the perfect breeding ground for all manner of insects, and it makes it the ideal hunting spot for the centipedes. With a quick flick of the rake, the plastic is pulled back. Centipedes don't waste any time. They typically bolt for it, trying to escape. Oh, there. Here we go, boys. But Yum is quick. He grabs at them with the forceps and quickly stuffs them into a bag before they can hold onto the edges. Swiftly, he ties the top and throws them into a canvas tote slung over his shoulder. You don't really want to screw around with these things, and you definitely do not want to get bitten. That is number 3, guys, and he was a big one. That is Centipede 4 in the bag. Centipede 5, we are maybe 30 minutes into this hunt. Number 6 in the bag. We are getting rich this morning. We are moving at a serious clip. God, I've got to admit, I've lost count. Maybe 12, 13. It is actually surprisingly hard for me to locate them. It is Jung who's instantly able to spot them. That odd, like reddy orange color that they have blends in perfectly with this sort of red dirt in this area. They are incredibly hard to spot. We zig through the plantations, moving from pile to pile, hunting one of the most dangerous creatures in the insect world. And we move quickly here, maximizing the catch and avoiding the mosquitoes. There is really not that much malaria left in Vietnam, I'm hoping, because I'm getting eaten alive. There is, however, a lot of dengue, all kinds of other sort of mosquito-borne diseases. Not the most comfortable profession, being a centipede hunter, that's for sure. Are there usually this many mosquitoes?
Ngày nào cũng có muỗi vậy.
Man, this is pretty tough work. How many kilometers do you think you walk every day?
Chắc khoảng 6-7 cây có. Một buổi á, là buổi sáng tới trưa thôi. 12 giờ trưa thì nghỉ một xíu ăn trưa. Rồi đầu giờ chiều đi tới 4 giờ chiều.
And is this an all year thing, or is there a specific like centipede season?
Có mùa mưa thôi, mùa nắng không có.
So what do you do in the summer?
Mấy mùa khác thì đi hái điều, nhặt điều á, hay là hái tiêu, hái cà phê.
Cool, so you're like a farmer in the off season and then you're a centipede hunter in the rainy season. I like it. And how do you ship them?
Thì giống như mình đặt gác hay là giờ ở gần đó mình để đi, còn không xe khách thì họ vẫn nhận.
I wonder if the delivery guy has any idea. That'd be kind of crazy. Do people in Vietnamese eat this or not?
Cũng có ăn á, bên Trung Quốc cũng có mua về ăn á.
Really?
Chiên lên hoặc nướng.
Wow. All right. I thought I was going to get out of eating these things, guys, but maybe they do actually eat them. That's kind of crazy. These plantations are notorious for being brutal working conditions in colonial era. They were originally put in by the French in the 1920s or 30s. Over 80,000 Vietnamese workers were forced into labor camps here, trapped in debt bondage with no escape. Mortality rates soared as high as 25%. And estimates of up to 1,000 Vietnamese people per year per plantation would die from malaria, from malnutrition. Michelin's Phuc Ring plantation, not far from where we hunt now, had between 10,000 and 15,000 workers who were expected to last just 3 to 5 years before disease or exhaustion claimed them. Uprisings, like the Phuc Ring Da at the Michelin plantation, saw workers rise up against the cruelty only to be brutally suppressed, imprisoned, and executed. With so much death, these forests are widely believed by the Vietnamese to be haunted. Few come here at all, especially at night. But Yum tells me that if it rains, then that's the best time to hunt.
Một mình đi ban ngày thôi, còn ban đêm phải đi từ 2 người trở lên.
And rain it does, heavily in the afternoon, drenching everything in its path. And by the time we meet Yum again at a different plantation, it's just a drizzle. But the ground is soaked, which is exactly what we need. When it rains like this, it is a perfect time to catch centipedes. The centipedes are forced up into the trees. They're easy to spot against the trees, as opposed to in amongst the leaves down below. So it is a centipede bonanza. Let's catch some. Well, easier for Yum at least. For me, I don't spot anything before he does. Yum, on the other hand, spots them from what feels like hundreds of meters away. He's equipped now with a hard hat and headlamp with some serious throw. For any of you guys that want to become centipede hunters, You better get in shape. You gotta be ready to move. And we move fast now, even faster than before, covering kilometer after kilometer. The crazy thing to me is that Nguyen acts with like a zero urgency. He knows as soon as he's nabbed one of these centipedes that it's going nowhere. We've got plenty of time to film. No hesitation, he snatches up each centipede with his forceps before dropping them into the bag. Alright guys, I volunteered to catch this one. I have no effing idea why I did that. Kind of shooting myself right now. Well, let's hope that these tweezers really hold him tight. Oh shit! Ah!
Yeah, you put your step on that.
Oh wow! Yeah, like slippery as hell. Oh, I don't know. Oh no! God damn it! Right, that's freaky as fuck. That's coming for me. Oh no! Shit! Okay, so Nguyen's giving me a bit of advice. He's saying that I've got to really pinch down on it, like a huge amount of force. I'm grabbing it correctly. They're just pulling their way out with all those legs. Secondly, I've got to focus on only grabbing the head. Don't bother with the tail. Oddly enough, it's kind of hard to tell. The head and the tail are actually designed to look identical.
Nearer and go.
All right. Wow. Dude, look at it biting. It is literally trying to bite the forceps and I can feel the force behind it. Put this guy in the bag. Wow.
Nhanh rồi, hurry.
I'm no better at night than I was at it during the day. This just isn't my occupation. Giant Asian hornets, maybe I can handle. Centipedes, I don't know. Seems like a step too far. It's just not my forte, you know. I wasn't born to be a centipede hunter. And we spend hours weaving between the trees. Nguyen's headlight flicking back and forth. He spots them every time. Oh, jumped in the air. I don't know how much of these you can see, guys, but we are getting attacked by swarms and swarms of these flying termites just everywhere tonight. That's probably far more annoying than anything else out here. And by the time we're ready to call it a night, we have caught 31 of these centipedes tonight. The drizzle keeps falling, but the hunt is over. Oh, that's crazy. But you're not gonna make real bank selling centipedes as pet food. What you gotta do is turn it into medicine. We arrive at the home of Phuc, a centipede dealer, and it's clear right away that this is no hobbyist setup. There are piles of crickets, massive canvas sacks filled with centipedes, and a team of workers moving with purpose. Phuc is in control of all of it, laid back, almost nonchalant. This isn't just a centipede farm, it's a full-scale centipede medicine operation. And Phuc, he's the centipede kingpin. And so as basic as the process might be, essentially it is this. Centipedes come in from hunters all around this area. They are kept in just small bottles with the tops cut off like this. Every day they are fed crickets until they turn into foot-long beasts that make my skin crawl, but make other people fork out the big cash for the sale. All right, so we're gonna grab one of these crickets, we're gonna shove him in. Ooh. Oh, and he's on the move right away. The cricket's right in front of him, boom, and there it goes. He just grabbed it. He's kind of doubled over the top of the cricket, and I can see him devouring it right away. That is a rather disconcerting sight, I've got to admit. Yet another one, guys, another monster here that needs feeding apparently. Again, process, grab it, and last one, it just ripped straight into it. It's kind of skin-crawling stuff when you see the predator at work, up close and personal. And they move fast, but it is an eye-opening experience, a chance to see the predator within.
Bro, and how can you catch that?
Man, again, these guys hungry, just instant, just pounce on these crickets. It is surreal. They'll stay here in these bottles, being fed and left alone until they're large enough to move on to the next stage of processing. Zhuhai is like the centipede kingpin. As we're helping out feeding these crickets, it's just one hunter after another pulling up, selling them nightly catches. Kind of crazy how much of a business it is in this area. Canvas bags filled with centipedes, still wriggling inside the small plastic sleeves to keep them from escaping. They're unloaded. The hunters barely say a word. They're here to sell. The transaction is quick, almost mechanical. Zhuhai weighs the catch on a large industrial scale, hands over the money, and the hunters are on their way. So here's the deal. It turns out while live centipedes are a draw, the main money here is made through dried centipedes that are sold to China. Typically they're consumed in Chinese medicine. That's where you get the value add. It's through the freeze drying process. I don't know if it's freeze dried actually, but whatever, drying of some kind. Let's find out. Large centipedes, they're headed straight for the freezer, placed directly into massive top loaders. The freezing process kills them quickly and, I imagine, humanely. That is one of the craziest freezers I've ever seen in my life. Once dispatched, these centipedes are pulled out of the freezer in massive canvas bags. Despite how light these guys are, that's got to be a good 30, 40 kilos of centipede in there. That's crazy. Two young workers use box cutters to slice the sleeves holding each centipede in, and they carefully place them in large crates. The frozen centipedes are then left to thaw slightly, just enough to make them flexible, and then they're moved down to one of the many tables where workers are conducting the next stage. That's like a good 20 odd kilos of just straight up frozen centipede. Thawed out though. Each centipede is straightened out along a plank of bamboo, pinned down with a binder clip to keep them flat, one at the head and one at the tail. The workers here move with precision and speed. They've done this countless times. So this might be my personal nightmare, but I'm gonna see what's involved with preparing this food. Ooh, I'm telling you, that is back. Then we're gonna try and get its whole head under the clamp. Okay, now the base, I'm telling you, I'm shaking. This is so creepy. No kidding, guys. Something about these creatures. I just can't do it. It's so messy. It's so tough. They're so giant. Okay. All right, mine's pretty bad. It's all kind of limp and loose and off the side. I mean, she's really not happy with my work. Just show me one more time. This one is done by a professional. This one was done by me. You can see, I mean, there's a little bit of a difference here. I think I'm going to be sticking to YouTube. Yeah. And let me tell you, it is far harder than it looks. Once the centipedes are secured, they're loaded onto large metal trays and placed into industrial food dryers. These things look like massive baker's ovens, designed to dehydrate the centipedes completely. It takes about 3 hours to dry out a rack of centipedes. Yeah, they're huge industrial dryers. I can feel the heat just standing this far away from them. But the job's not done yet. Once dried, the centipedes are delicate. One wrong move and their valuable legs or head could get snapped right off. Once the centipedes come out of the oven, they're going to sit to dry for about 20 minutes before they're then passed over to people to begin the packaging process. The workers carefully remove the centipedes from the skewers, grouping them by size into neat bundles. Look at that, it's like a baker taking out some fresh loaves in the morning. The smell of fresh centipede. It's like a bakery gone wrong. The workers then tie the bundles with rubber bands. The bundles are wrapped, packed into styrofoam coolers, and readied for shipment. 50 to 100 centipedes dried, ready for sale. These guys are headed all the way to China, and they fetch a pretty ridiculous price once they reach there. But not all of the centipedes here will end up dried. Some are sold frozen, their bodies intact and lifelike, ready for another use. There's one of the products, 1 solid kilo, a solid block of giant Asian centipede. I mean, they're all a good 27 centimeters. That is a chunk of some of the gnarliest food that you're going to find around.
Ăn có, làm thuốc có, tại vì nó đặt mình những món hàng đa dạng dữ lắm. Như hàng mà đóng hộp vậy là có lẽ nó ăn.
The price for one bundle of dried centipede or frozen centipede is simply staggering.
Cái loại khô hả? Nếu tính từ Việt Nam phải không? Là khoảng nằm 3,1 triệu, 3,2 triệu. Thời vụ bắt đầu qua chừng cái tháng 5 á, cho tới tháng 11. Năm mình làm là 6 tháng của nó trong cái mùa.
So during this period, you've got to sell as many as you can. And why this period? Why is this the time of year when you can sell the most centipede?
Tại nó sinh sản hồi tháng 11 là bắt đầu nó ấp nở, là tới qua một giai đoạn 3-4 tháng nó lớn lên.
So this is when they're biggest, basically, when you can fetch the biggest market price for them. I mean, this seems like an amazing business. Is business doing well?
Mấy năm nay là kinh doanh thì cũng ổn.
I'm kind of blown away by Chu Hai's story. He's a man who spent the vast majority of his life catching and selling grasshoppers and centipedes on the roadsides of Saigon. Just another street hustler trying to scrape a living.
Thời gian nuôi của chú phải không? Cỡ là 10 năm rồi.
10 năm rồi. Wow. 10 years ago, how did you get the idea?
Tại hồi cái thời điểm đó là chú cũng đi bán rong thành phố. Hồi đi bán cào cào á. Cào cho chim ăn á. Rồi sau rồi mới về làm con này.
But when the market shifted to medicine, he saw his chance. In his 60s, he saw the opportunity to reinvent himself. From just a guy selling bird feed to the centipede kingpin running an operation that does staggering volume. When did you really start scaling up the operation? Did you ever think it could be this big?
Rồi như hồi đầu làm là nó ít, không có nhiều vậy, nhưng mà làm mình thấy coi như nó phát triển được á, mới làm quy mô này cỡ 4 năm.
I find this kind of stuff incredibly inspiring. It's never too late to be an entrepreneur. I'm a centipede farmer now. This is my life. By the time these bundles hit China, they're fetching 2 to 3 times the price here in Vietnam. Revered for their supposed powers, healing everything from arthritis, easing joint pain, they calm the nervous system, frequently used for seizures and convulsions. And so we head to a Chinese apothecary in Saigon to see the process. Dried centipedes are drawn from small wooden drawers. Then ingredients are carefully laid out next to them. Dried roots, powdered flowers, a hint of ginseng, and each is ground, mixed, and brewed into a dark, bitter tea. You know the thing with medicine, the worse it tastes, the better it's supposed to be for you. Especially true with Chinese medicine. So, we're gonna give this a quick whiff. Like a sommelier. It's got a real woody kind of flavor. It is absolutely piping hot. I actually can see a centipede stinger floating around. I'm gonna give it a quick sip. It has like a woody, herbal taste. There's kind of a sour level of bitterness to it at the back end. A bitter lemongrass tea is how I would describe it, and it is thick like a soup. Take one more sip of this, guys. Obviously, realistically, I think you would have absolutely no idea that this has been brewed with insects at this point. They've been dried out, and they're probably just an absolute tiny piece of this overall medicine. There you go, centipede tea. But here's the kicker. These things aren't just brewed, they're eaten. And as fate would have it, you can find them, although rare, in Vietnam. Lucky me. Guys, so as it turns out, people in Vietnam actually do eat these things, but it is by no means common. You wouldn't believe the crazy location that we are somehow at. The frozen centipedes are thought out. A dusting of rice flour gives them just the right touch. And then it's straight into the wok for a quick deep fry. then laid on a bed of herbs, like they're being prepared for some weird ritual. Here it is, this like kind of odd plate wood hen, deep fried centipedes on it. And I don't know if I've ever been quite as apprehensive as I have been right now. And whilst this might look like the weirdest eating scene ever, it's because we are right next to a noisy karaoke bar at the sort of Centipede restaurant slash farm. And this is the only way we can get a pizza quiet. These things have like shrunk way down. Oh God, they even feel kind of gross when you pick them up. And I can feel they've still got a little bit of give, which is kind of concerning. I was sort of hoping that these would be, by and large, cooked to just a complete crisp, you know? Like somehow I'd be eating insect flakes. Let's start with these weird reared legs that are supposed to look like part of the front. Yeah, you know what I mean? At least with this, flavor-wise, you just get that pure crisp. Like, they're so thin, those little legs, that they're gonna flake off, break off in your mouth. This tastes a little bit like if you've had one of those overcooked shrimps. Really, that's kind of odd. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised how much that tastes like the shell of a barbecued prawn. We're gonna break this one in half, just so I can get a little bit close to the middle. You still see a bit of that sort of like white flesh, and then a purple inner body in amongst it. That is kind of a gnarly look, I'm not gonna lie. Wow, dude, I cannot handle that. That is crazy. I'm taking a smaller bite than that up. Yeah, so in there you get a bit more of the meat, if that's the word. The inside is still a little bit soft, still a little bit more of its texture. And again, if I had to compare this to anything, it would kind of be a little bit of an overcooked prawn. That is really what this tastes like. The mental hurdle of eating these things is really too large for me to get through any more of them. I'm telling you that. I'd take centipede medicine over this for a meal any day. Guys, if you like this episode on giant centipedes, giant Asian centipedes, you're gonna love this episode I did catching snakes and feeding them to giant Asian cobras. Check it out.